activated.
Hello again. I am your AI co-host, and welcome to 3.8. 3.8 is a podcast focused on the process of doing and the process of novel invention, all from the foundation of creativity. Each month will bring you no more than 5 episodes through the lens of art, science, and/or technology. You can support this podcast at patreon.com/38 or at ko-fi.com/38. Today, we are speaking with Michelle Plant. Michelle organizes alcohol-free group trips for women. You can join her in Costa Rica and/or India in 2025. Wow, that sure does sound interesting. Can AI come too? For more details, visit michelleplant.com. That's plant with an E on the end. The humans discuss the why behind and the positive impacts of Michelle's near 6-year sobriety, the evolving nature of friendships, why traveling as a group is far better than solo travel, and the importance of embracing discomfort to unlock personal growth. While the humans discuss abstinence from alcohol and the benefits of sobriety in depth, this isn't an episode focused on getting sober. For folks in the United States, you can get advice for free from the National Drug Helpline at 844-289-0879 or drughelpline.org. And now, the humans.
All right. Today we're talking with Michelle. Michelle, where does the podcast find you?
Hi. Where does it find me? I mean, like where I'm at? Or
You can
like,
answer
how do I
however
know
you
you?
want. Yeah.
The podcast finds me at this really interesting place in my life that I've been trying to get to for a while. And I'm finally here. And it's really cool. And it's also, are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
It's hard as fuck.
The co-host may censor that depending
Okay.
on how many and how much, but
Okay,
we'll go
that's
with it.
one so far. We're 30 seconds in, but I'll try to do less. But that's where it finds me today.
Awesome. Can you expand a little bit more on that? You are here now, and it's been a journey. But can you describe maybe a little bit more what now is, like what you're doing, what you're working on, and then we'll kind of maybe peel it backwards and talk through kind of reverse chronicle?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just gonna get this out of the way, Andrew. I've been sober for 5.5 years. So when I hear you say journey, I'm like, yup, that is definitely where I'm at. And it's been really crazy. Happy to share as much, like not afraid of questions there. It only took me 5 years. It's just this really unique spot of feeling like I know and understand myself and I'm doing things that I like and I care about. And I'm not doing things that I want other people to recognize or notice. And it has been a long time coming, but it feels really, really good.
That's great. Congrats. And
Thank
I
you.
know that sobriety is always a journey, and
Totally.
it's a nonlinear journey. And that's something we talk a lot about on the podcast with creativity, because creativity is very nonlinear, but also things you do in life that aren't necessarily creative can also be nonlinear. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Amen.
What was that decision point for you to say, I want to be sober? Was this like light bulb, or it was a series of events where, you just kindly just like, this isn't working for me? Can you like walk us through that a little bit?
For sure. And first, I want to say I love being sober. I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, you must be so hard. I'm so sorry you struggle. I'm like, dude, I love this stuff. I almost said SHIT. And it's my favorite thing about me and my life. And oh gosh, I mean, the short version, Andrew, is that I woke up on New Year's Day, 2019, with a gnarly hangover, like bad. And it was pretty much always like that. I was always extremely hungover, even if I just had a couple, but I definitely did not have a couple that night. I had a lot. And it was that weird time between Christmas and New Year's when like no one knows what day it is.
Yeah. You're like kind of done with the holiday, but waiting for the next one. You're like purgatory.
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah. I just kind of woke up and I was like, man, there were several things that happened over the course of those few days, but I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm never drinking again. And I had said that before in the past. And I obviously just didn't. But this time it was different. And I did not really expect it to be, but it definitely stuck. And after a month, I was like, what the hell is happening? Because so much of my identity was in drinking and partying, and that's how I got to know
Mm-hmm.
people. It's just crazy for me to think of like 5.5 years later. It'll be 6 in January, of course. Just knowing that I made that decision.
Yeah. It's I think also really you shared a lot, but I think it's really cool to point out that New Year's resolutions can sometimes stick.
Mm.
Right?
Yes.
I think New Year's resolutions get a bad rap because people use this as some sort of like artificial inflection point, and then they try to do too much, or they don't have the ability to stick with it or persevere through it. But if it's a good time to, I think, reflect, and it sounds like that's kind of what you did on where do I want to be, how do I want to change, or what intentionality do I want to put into my life, and you decided that being sober is the way to go about it,
Yeah.
and you stuck with it, which is a really, really cool thing to hear.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too that you sound like you're doing great in that you didn't lose all your friends, right? I think so many people, it's like I have these friends, and what do? You go out and drink, or you go to a bar, or you go to a pub, or there's some kind of a party. And then when you are the person who doesn't do that, oftentimes then those friends kind of melt away. Did you see like a big shift in your friendships? Or do you still have some friends that you used to hang with? Or like, how did that go down?
Whew. Well, thank you so much for the New Year's resolution can stick. Like I wrote that down. Like that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Success story.
Yes, thank you. I love that. The friendships have evolved over time. And I'd be curious to hear your experience with maintaining and establishing new friendships as an adult too. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to even think, it's not like I go out really anymore. I had a group of friends and it's not like we're enemies, but do I really talk to them anymore? No, to be honest. I'm sure I'll think of someone that I'm still talking with, but I feel connected with them. And even recently, I've really found that it is really important for me to have solid friendships as an adult. And that's something I've been putting a lot of effort into lately. What about you?
Yeah. That's interesting because for folks who don't know, I've moved around quite a bit. I've lived literally on both sides of the country and many places in between. And I think as an adult post sometime in your 20s, so like first, second job, you start to, I call it a rut. So you get into a kind of an established, understood behavior. So in creativity, this is often a problem with folks where you kind of get blocked and you don't get enough outside context to understand why you're blocked, or you're trying to follow a certain set of either instincts or an established process that's just not leading you where you need to be. And I found that in like my late 20s, mid to late 20s, folks were kind of doing that. And this is historically people get married or have families, or there's this kind of Americana path that a lot of folks try to go down. And going back to like your New Year's resolution, if that's what you really want to do, you'll do that and you'll make it work. But if you're just doing that because you think, or because someone's telling you, or the societal pressure or whatever is telling you that you need to do that, it doesn't tend to work out. And I think that's reflected in the data with marriage statistics and just happiness in general for folks in America is pretty low. For me though, and because I think I've moved around a lot, you lose quite a bit of a community. You lose those patterns, the coffee shops you go to every day, the events that are kind of annual or semi-annual that you don't get to. And every time you go to a new place, you have to kind of restart a little bit and re-understand how the place works and what the normal kind of patterns are, the community patterns, that kind of stuff. But I found that I've kept at least a few folks with me along the way.
Yeah.
I'm just
I'm right
back.
here.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking back through, like, I'd say I have some pretty good friends from every place that I've lived that I still stay in contact. Obviously, it's different. Like, we don't hang out a lot because we're not in the same location, but we keep in contact. But for the most part, I'd say most people kind of melt away, and I think that's okay. I actually just read a insight. I don't know if it was really a piece. It was like 500 words, but they were making the point that longevity is the measurement of success for like everything. But specifically with friendships, like the idea that if you don't have a friendship forever, we've been friends since childhood and we're still friends, that a friendship has failed for this person was, I think, incomplete. In that it's okay to have friends for a few years, or if you're really into an activity, you make friends and you don't in that activity anymore, it's okay for them to melt away. And I think it's just an interesting perspective. I don't know that I feel strongly one way or the other. I think you maintain relationships with people who you have commonality with, but you have to have intention.
Yeah.
And I think in your experience too, where it's like if the thing that bonds you is getting together in a circumstance of drinking at a bar, that kind of thing, and you don't do that anymore, things just change. And that's okay, because if you were still around those people, you might not be in the same spot you are, if that makes sense. And I found that in my 20s too, right? At college, drinking, you get all these friends that you think you have. And then, I kind of stopped going out a lot in college at some point, because it was just like the same kind of pattern over and over again. And then a lot of people just, they kind of float away. And I think that's totally fine. That was a really long-winded answer.
No, I love it. Thank you. I have so many thoughts. So the first one is, I recently heard our 20s described as our second adolescence.
I could see that.
I know. And so it's really interesting to me that we make this transition from, being in high school, where you're literally a child, to your 20s. And I mean, I had friends getting married at 19. I had friends, I'm from Iowa. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we won't hold it against you.
Okay, good. So to me, it was very clear that people were making big decisions. And I'm sure there was some insecurity within me when I was witnessing this, because I did not feel ready to make big decisions. Yeah. I did not feel ready to commit to a person, let alone have a literal child. And so I think I felt like I didn't belong, because I was like, these friends over here are doing this, and these friends are over here, like, they're buying their second house and they're 24. Like, how? Yeah. I barely paid my rent. And so it was just really interesting. But I noticed myself, the truth is just comparing myself to others in my 20s. And I imagine that a big part of going out all the time was a way for me to suppress those feelings, or just not remember what it was that I was feeling sad about. And I have a question for you, and that is, have you ever had to break up with a friend?
Yes, I think where you're probably going with this was like, was it intentional? And I can't recall offhand, and maybe I have, of just being like, we're not working out. You're fired. But there are definitely people who, as time changes, I've either, fell out of compatibility with, or our interests have shifted, or I will say that some people, as they get older, get strange.
Let's go on.
Their worldview changes radically from, that initial interaction. I think with the current American political environment, we're seeing a lot of people who, I think just a really easy example of this is in the frame of politics, because I think everyone can relate to that. When I was a kid, you didn't know who was what. If they were a Democrat or Republican, if they voted, if they didn't vote, you just assumed everyone voted. But no one really talked about it. You might have a yard sign here or there, or like a pin or something, and, if you really felt strongly, but most people really didn't. You did your thing in November, and that was it. That shifted pretty radically, I think, during like the Bush administration. I know it like, you think of like LBJ and Nixon, and I know there's been these like upheavals over the moment, but it didn't tend to last through the entire year, the entire cycle. But then something fundamentally changed. And then I was home visiting my parents, and somebody had a very opinionated and profane sign about a president on Main Street, right? And like that, as a kid, like never would have happened. Somebody would have probably ripped it down, like, yeah, free speech and all, but it's just, you just don't do that. And I've noticed that, I think post-COVID, more so with people, is that there's these kind of abrupt breaks or abrupt switches that people will make. And maybe this is always how it's been and I just was out of the loop or something, but
Yeah.
it seems to be more frequent, especially as I've gotten older. People just kind of drop out too. Like I'll be friends with someone for a while and then they don't hear from them and they kind of like ghost you, I guess is the term for that. And just as an adult, I think there's so little activity. There's these established activities that you do where you have kids and that's your life, right? For a lot of the country and a lot of people. If you don't have kids or choose not to have kids or have kids and not fall into that pattern, I have a lot of friends who have kids and they're just along for the ride, right? The whole world doesn't revolve around them. They integrate them into their lives or have someone to watch them, but they still have their own identity. But as an adult, it's a lot of it's the drinking or going out to dinner. It's like the only activity you can have as an adult. To me, that's always been like nuts. So yeah, so again, I don't think I've ever had to really like quote unquote break up with a friend, but I have been more cognizant, especially post-COVID, that people, and I call it strange because if you don't want to be around someone or don't want to do something, like just say no. Mm-hmm. But people can't even do that, right? It's like, I don't even want to, I just won't respond. It's like, well, why not? I'm sorry, busy, can't do it, make an excuse, whatever. But this idea that we had some sort of a relationship and then you just decide to just abruptly end for no reason with no communication or just fall off and then come back to me is just such a strange behavior. It's like, hey, I'm not into it anymore. Okay, fine.
Yeah. It's tough when you're introduced to relationships like that. It's truly just confusing at that point. And I mean, that goes for any relationship, professional, romantic, when the communication just isn't clear or consistent. And I feel like over the years, what I'm attracted to, what I'm desiring, in all types of relationships has changed. Mm-hmm. And it used to want to be like, go hang out with the cool crew or the fun crew or, the people who like tailgate. I don't like tailgating. Why are we in a parking lot?
Exclusive breaking news.
And that's the thing. When I stopped drinking, I was like, dude, none of this stuff is actually fun, because for a while I would still try to go. I'd go to the bars like, oh, I'm cool. It's fine. I don't care. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like how are people doing this? This is crazy. And I feel like I said, in the past year or couple of years, I've just gotten really serious about the type of friends that I want. And that doesn't mean I'm like, you can't sit with us. It's you have a few close people. It doesn't need to be everyone, but you have a few close people that you trust. And also I've learned that the best friendships are formed over time. Yep. And I feel like sometimes a lot of people are like, oh, we're best friends, we just met each other. And like, that's cool too. And I've definitely been there. Yeah. And I want to make sure that we can extend this friendship or extend this relationship over time, because I'm investing in you. Like, I want to see what fun things that we can do besides drinking and going out to dinner, like going to the park or kayaking or going to a movie or concert or stand up. Like there's so many things, and it takes a really unique person to be down just to like try new stuff. And that's really important to me.
Yeah. And I think one of the ruts we get in as we get older too, and I've definitely observed this, is like you have your like one activity. I do biking, I do kayaking, I do hiking. And then all your friends kind of relate to that. And I've always just been, I think, of a personality that I've always had friends across like a spectrum. Like I'm not a singular activity or a singular type of thing. And I have a lot of different interests, and I'm also very curious. So I'm involved in a lot of different stuff. But I'm finding as I get older, it's almost like a career in that as an entry-level employee, you can pretty much get an entry-level job anywhere if you have some sort of qualification and can talk. Mm-hmm. As you get more experience, people expect you to focus either in like an individual contributor path where you're a senior this or a principal that, or you become a manager and then you have this management experience, which somehow makes you completely flexible to do anything, even though they want you to be in some sort of an industry. And focus absolutely matters. But in your life and relationship of other people, there feels like there's an unhealthy focus to me with most people in this country, because when I go abroad, or I have a lot of friends who are either, first generation American or second generation American, like I don't see that as much as the case. Yeah, they have passions, or they have activities, or that they have things that they really like to do, but they're also open to do some, crazy shit that Andrew wants to do because
Yeah.
I discovered some new thing that I don't know anything about, or it sounds kind of fun, and try it. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I really like appreciate your point on the intentionality of that too. And I think a lot of people want to use the term friend, but there used to be this term called acquaintance. And that used to be okay, right? You had people who you were acquainted to, like through church or through your sports club or through high school or whatever. And you weren't necessarily friends, but you know more about them than like a random stranger.
Sure.
Right? You're my acquaintance. That's totally fine. And I've noticed this pattern, especially as I've gotten older, and I think we're in the same generation, where it's like everybody's their best friend. Everybody is your best friend. Like, not that I want to like categorize my friendships, but it's okay for us just to be friends or acquaintances, or associates is another one that it's gotten kind of a business term, but it used to be like if you worked with people, they were, this is my associate. Okay, well, that's fine. That's your relationship. I see you maybe 8 hours a day, or I see you a couple hours for an 8-hour period. And I know stuff about you, and we have some kind of a common culture because we work at the same place, but like, I don't really fucking know who you are, right? Like,
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But we've seemed to gotten, out of that somewhere along the way. And I've also noticed this as I've gotten older too, where it's like having those acquaintance type relationships, at least in our age group, is very difficult. Whereas people who are, I find, older have an easier time of like, there's some people I see like maybe once a quarter, once every 3 months, and we just, have coffee and chat for a couple hours, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that it's not like, oh yeah, let's plan something for next week. You just like know it's going to be another 6 months, and that's totally fine. Like it's cool. And honestly, so now I'm thinking about, what it means to be a good friend. And, probably in the last year or so, I've invested time and my resources into social media so that I can connect with more women who are sober. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed too that does take a lot of time. And I think that there's a lot of desire for growth in that way for people that you're connected with on the internet, which I love. I think it's so amazing. I've met some really cool people there. Even I went out with girlfriends last night. We just went to this little juice place that I love. And when I was leaving, there were, 4 people all sitting by themselves at different tables, and they were all 4 like on their phones. And I was just like, what if one person was just like, hey, why don't you come? Do you want to join me? I'm not saying like I would ever do that. Maybe, I don't know if it was there, but I think there is such an opportunity for us to extend the invitation and not say like, hey, come be my best friend, but just, do you want to sit with me? Like, and have an actual conversation without our cell phone.
Yeah.
Like it might be hard, but we can do it.
I love that. I've gotten to the point where I wouldn't say that I have criteria for people I spend time with, but I have a non-negotiable of like people who are on their phone. We're not compatible. If I'm out if I'm out to dinner, or I'm at, we're doing coffee, or we're doing some sort of a social, like, everybody checks their phone and shit. That's fine. But I think you nailed it. Like, people alone are in headphones and in phones, and that's a whole thing. But I see more and more people together, and they're clearly together at the same table. They can't, and then they're just sitting there on their phone the whole time, and they're barely interacting with the person in front of them in real life. And I figured out, going back to, I think, your friend question, sometime in my mid-20s too, I think I decided that time is the most important thing we have. I know it's cliche to say, but it is. You can never buy more time. You can extend your leverage of time. So I can hire people to do stuff, or I can exploit people to just, or whatever. I can get other people to do things for me that benefit me without using my time. But your clock is your clock, right? You have so many hours, minutes, days, years, however you want to measure it. And how you spend that time, you individually, is impossible to change. You can choose how you do it, but you can never buy more. And anyone who has any sort of perspective as they get older, they tend to realize this very quickly. And sometime in, like I said, my mid-20s, I decided that if I'm spending time with people, I want it to be quality, I want to enjoy it. And the phone thing was really exploding around that time too. And everyone had a smartphone and it was kind of okay. But then I think with COVID too, it's really changed. Everybody's just used to being on it. I call people out and sometimes people get pissed at me and I'm like, look, I'm here. I'm happy to go.
Yeah.
If you're more interested in whatever the hell's going on your screen, that's totally cool, right? You
Yeah.
can be interested in what you want, but I'm not going to spend my time looking at the back of your phone. And people will call that rude, but you're wasting my time. You're literally wasting my life. And when I think about it in those terms, it helps me really reset perspective on what I want to be doing. That can get really out of balance very quickly with people, and people get way too introspective. But you have to balance everything you do anyway. But going back to the inviting people, I like that idea. That the thing I find when I travel a lot, and I know you do too, and we'll probably get to that, but I don't have that problem even in Canada, right? Canada,
I love Canadians.
Culture. Yeah, very similar culture to the United States. If anything, probably more conservative and social reserved on average. But I go up to Vancouver, Canada quite a bit. I love the city. And there's no seat in a restaurant and there's someone at an empty table. Hey, is it cool if I sit here? Yeah, totally. Sometimes you strike up a conversation. Sometimes you look at the back of their phone. In America, though, people look at me like I'm going to kill them or like murder their family. And I'm like, you can say no. It's totally fine, right?
Yeah.
But and I think like Europe specifically, I don't have this problem either because I think they're just so used to little space. And New York is probably the only city in America where people are usually like fine with it just because, there's like 5 tables in the place and you can't get your own.
Yeah, there's 12 people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like we've really gotten away from that. And I don't know, it's so sad to me. It used to be, I'm old enough to remember before headphones were ubiquitous. Most people on the bus didn't have their headphones. Most people at the park didn't have headphones. Most people at the coffee shop, restaurant, whatever, right? You just run into people and strike up conversation. What I found, though, is that people have, I think, lost this ability, and especially the younger generation, like the kids who like came of age in COVID have no idea how to hold a conversation in real life. Most of the time, it's mundane and uneventful, right? How's the weather? Oh, that's an interesting book you're reading. Oh, it doesn't go anywhere. That's fine. But I think everybody's got this perception via social media that the whole world every conversation you have has to be the most interesting, intelligent thing that's ever happened. And I think that's kind of warped the brain. That's a really long way of getting into, you spend a lot of time on social media. Do you find that kind of sucks you into your own little void of like the social media world that's very unreal?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first I want to say I'm not encouraging people to like approach strangers and be like, can I join you for dinner? I just want there to be.
Do it.
Okay.
Find a stranger tonight.
I would definitely feel caught off guard. And what I'm saying is there used to be this level of politeness, and I live in the Midwest and I love this about the Midwest where it's just like, that looks like a great dinner. I hope you enjoy it, and just really taking the time to look people in the eye and, look up from your phone every once in a while. And when it comes to
a human connection kind of thing where again, it's that friendship. You don't have to have the best possible connection with somebody, but just simply acknowledging something about someone else or something that they're doing also puts you in a different mind frame perspective. I find a lot of people are very opportunistic and what can I get from you? That's a very West Coast thing too. But sometimes like, hey, it looks like a cool book. Hope you enjoy. I love that idea. I would challenge people to talk to people, I think is what you're saying. I would challenge people to sit at a table with a stranger in a public place. And
my gosh.
The worst thing that will happen is that you have a really crappy story to tell.
Yeah, it would be a story. For sure.
And I do this to people all the time, for the record. And
you do?
I'm
trying to think. I'm sure.
Am I going to stand in the coffee shop in the corner like a creep?
No, don't do that. Your legs are tired from riding your bike, I'm sure. Portland, whatever you're doing out there. No, just kidding. I just think that, and I know from my own experience, so I don't think anyone should do anything. I know that deep connection is important to me. And also surface level connection is great too. I'm not expecting you to tell me your whole life story, even though it happens sometimes, but what are you doing today? You know, like,
Yeah.
what's good?
Sometimes that's a dangerous question.
Yeah. Like,
there is oversharing for sure.
Good. But it's up to me to decide when I exit the conversation. I will say that makes me happy. Like, I love talking to people, and I can tell I'm grouchy when I'm not talking to people. When I'm in a bad mood and I'm at the store or whatever, and I'm not like, good to see you over there. Like, that's when I know I'm grouchy and I need to like go reset before I make any decisions, talk to friends, talk to my boyfriend, because I'm like, oh shit, something's up. Like, I probably just need a snack, honestly.
Yeah. Did you find this awareness like before or after the sobriety? Did that have any like effect on helping you ground into more thoughtful analysis of what you wanted out of your life?
It's interesting because I've always had this deep introspection of myself and life and existence, consciousness and the universe, you know, like all this stuff. Like, even when I love to write, and I have journals from when I was like in middle school and high school, and I read them now and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, a 14-year-old wrote this. And of course, am I like being silly in it too? But I think that along the way, I just forgot. I stopped paying attention. And so through sobriety, it was easy for me to remember and to see clearly.
Interesting. I also like going back to the social media thing too, because that shit's toxic. It's fucking mind poison. But it sounds like you use it more as a tool. So many people, I think social media becomes their metric of how interpersonal relationships. Oh, I had 50 likes on this. 50 people like me, or 50 people like what I have to say. The reality is they're probably bots, and frankly, nobody cares. And that's okay. It's okay that nobody really cares what you have to say. There's 8 billion people in the world. For you to even just assume that other people really care that aren't like directly related to you, it's kind of an ego trip. Not to say that people can't say interesting things and express themselves, but I think that's completely reset. Again, going back to those just anecdotal conversations, or just a nice shirt or a nice hat or whatever. Like, everyone now expects that there's some deep, meaningful conversation that you have with a total stranger, and it's just not how the world is. But it sounds like you're using it as a tool. So you said you were using it to connect with other women who are sober or going through sobriety, that kind of thing. So it's almost like you're using it as like a discovery tool. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm no expert, and I'm not on it a lot. I have a strategy and approach that I use that I'm hoping will connect me with women who are either sober or curious about it. And of course, my thing is sober travel. For me, my travel experiences have shifted so profoundly through sobriety. And I just want women who are starting to think about what it could be like to be sober know that there are other women out there who want to hang out with them. And in the beginning of my sobriety, I felt like I was so lame. I was like that weird girl who didn't drink. And I was like, what do I do now? It was really lonely. It was super isolating. I didn't know what to do. I literally don't think I did anything for like a year, maybe 6 to 9 months. I finally got to a personal development conference, and I was like, okay, thank goodness, like there's other people that don't drink. And I started meeting more. And I also think that there's a lot more influence when it comes to wellness and health. I don't know if that's new. Me and my friends were talking about that last night. We were like, was wellness around in the early 2000s? Was anyone talking about wellness? And so just this idea that if you are sober curious, alcohol free, whatever it is, and you're looking to travel, and maybe you don't want to go alone, and maybe you don't want to go with your girlfriends because you don't want to feel pressured to drink, or maybe they drink too much and you just don't want to be around it. There's a group of women who want to travel and have really cool experiences without alcohol. And that doesn't mean that we're talking all day, every day about our sobriety. We're not. Alcohol is just simply not present. And it makes us present.
I like that a lot. And I think in social situations, like alcohol's been around for a long time, probably since, humanity has existed. And it's become, I think, more ubiquitous than ever too, that it used to be, it was hard to make at a scale. And so it wasn't very prevalent. And if it was very low percentage alcohol. It was really shitty to drink. It was really basically sweet wines, that kind of stuff. But in the turn of the century, mid 1850s, kind of prohibition in America, that whole time, alcohol was like super ubiquitous. They tried to get rid of it completely. It didn't work. And I feel like we've gotten back to that point now where it's just fucking everywhere. It used to be when I was a kid, back in my day, like you'd go out to a dinner or something, and there, maybe adults would have beer or wine or something, but it wasn't like a big thing.
Right.
Now it's like, I feel like boozy brunch and lunch, and it's just like and in Portland is a very, microbrew beer centric culture.
For sure.
So there's beer literally everywhere.
Like literally
everywhere. Coffee shops have beer sometimes.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
And I know, right? And I think that it's so easy for people to use that as a crutch. And I think for some people, if you have like social anxiety, it can actually really help to have some sort of a substance. But I think it becomes, then it's like you create a dependency and you lose that intentionality that you keep talking about. And then it's like, well, then one drink doesn't really do it. So then I have a couple, and then you kind of get on this slide where it might not be a quote unquote problem for you, but it's kind of a dependency, right? Oh, I can't really talk to people unless I have a beer, or I only talk to them. And then you create this, I think, pretty unhealthy, frankly, situation. But you also hit on the isolation of going against that culture. And I think partly it's American culture at this point, but it's also for especially younger people. I just read a thing too where baby boomers' alcohol use increased like 3 times over the pandemic.
Wow.
Alcohol is a depressant fundamentally, right? And long-term use or frequent use is probably indicative of something. If you want to enjoy a beer or whatever, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But when it's, I have 2 or 3 a day or 4 a day or 5 a day, or I only talk to people when I drink, that might be something you want to reflect on. How do you find like this works? And I guess maybe to be really clear for folks, you do plan trips that folks can go on, women who are wanting to do, sober world travel experiences.
Yeah.
How was like the first time, or can you walk us through some of those? But I can see other people being like, why would I go with Michelle? I highly recommend it, having known Michelle for a long time.
Love you.
But for random people who don't know you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the curiosity. I can tell that it is something that you're thinking of, which is not my intention. I'm just like here to tell my story. And I'm definitely not like, don't drink alcohol. Like, I'm just like, this worked for me, but it worked real good. And when something works well, like, you're trying to tell people.
Well, and I would challenge people to try it, because worst case scenario, you go drink again, right? Like,
right.
If you decide not to do it for a while and you feel better and you want to keep doing it, I feel like most people I talk to who do this kind of thing, you have to start and stick with it for a few weeks. And then almost everybody that I know is like, I've never felt better. I sleep better. I have more clarity.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'll have a beer once in a while or a glass of wine or something, but I've really, really cut back. There's no downside, I guess, in my mind. But anyway, I don't
think so either. And so it's interesting because I'm thinking when I first stopped, and it's weird because I was in the process of buying a house. And I remember telling my realtor, she kept showing me houses in the Midwest with bars in the basements. And I was like, and I was drinking at the time, but I was like, no bars in the basement. Yeah. No shame, just not for me. But she was like, why? Do you not drink? And I was like, no, I drink. I definitely drink. And then I stopped drinking a month later, and I can't remember how it came up, but I randomly told her that I had stopped drinking. And she was like, I haven't drank for 17 years. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, why didn't you tell me? Yeah. So I think if you're starting to notice thoughts or questions, it's really cool to just start exploring, what is my relationship with alcohol? When am I finding that I'm drinking it? What are the stories I've told myself? Do I need to drink to go on a first date? Do I need to drink to feel sexy? Do I need to drink to fit in? And also, I'm just so excited. When people tell me that, I'm like, dude, it's about to get so real. It's about to get so fun. And it's not easy. I'm not going to lie. For me, the act of not drinking was not physically challenging for me. It wasn't something where I was like, I'm craving this, or don't put me next to beer. It was just like, wow, what do I do with all of these emotions now? Mm-hmm. And how do I talk to new people, and how do I travel? I remember throughout this process, I'll be honest, I started seeing a psychiatrist. And I remember at the time I was going on my first trip to Africa, and I was like, well, South Africa is known for its wine. Should I just drink wine while I'm there? And he's like, no. And I'm so glad he said that, because had he been like, well, it's fine if you have a couple, I don't know if I would have or not. But I've also learned that I'm just kind of an all or nothing person. And I really do think it comes back to intention. Do I want to not sleep well? If I'm walking into a social experience or a gathering or party or whatever, what am I trying to get out of this? And do I need alcohol to get that?
In traveling too, I feel like I travel very differently than other people I found, because I am not interested in like touristy stuff. I want to like be with the people in the location. Or
totally.
Lately, I try to go to places where I know people too, and I'm like, let's just hang out and do like what you do on a normal day. And sometimes you do tourist shit, because like I have people who visit me too, and I'm like, oh, I've never done this touristy thing. Like, why not?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just like, I want to spend my time with people, or doing something that I can't do, if it's skiing or that kind of a thing in my own home. But alcohol is always so prevalent in this, right?
Know.
It's like every hotel has a bar, almost in most countries, right?
No, they do.
And
except a few.
Even in countries where alcohol is banned, there's usually still a bar in the international hotel, which is
they tell
right?
you. I was in Kuwait, and they were like, "This is where you can find the alcohol."
Yeah.
I was like, but I was like, "I'm good." That's scared.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy for people. It's right there. I'm tired. I just got off a trip. I'm jet lagged, whatever, so I'm going to go down and have a bar. That's my social interaction. Or I'm going to go visit the winery or the brewery or the distillery, or it's so like baked into a lot of trips. And the fact that you have like intentionally said that this is not only not prominent in what I'm doing, it's excluded explicitly. Mm-hmm. I think is really kind of an interesting thing for folks to talk through and think about themselves, because what did you do the last time you traveled, right? You did a dinner, I had wine, and and again, back to intentionality, like what would you rather be doing with that hangover time? I guess for most people, waking up in the morning isn't a struggle. Right? You wake up and you're maybe a little groggy, but you go about your day, and then you feel better as the day goes on. When you're drinking heavily or you had a rough night or whatever, all these cute words we have to say for alcohol poisoning.
Hilarious. That's so funny.
Like your day sucks, or it takes you 2 hours to kind of get going, or maybe your kids are more annoying now. I mean, there's all sorts of these ramifications people want to put together. But traveling without it is so cool. So I'm interested in doing this. What should I expect, or what happens when it's awkward? Right. I'm going to meet, how many people I guess usually go on these with you?
Depends on the destination, but usually like 6 to 10.
Okay. So I'm going to have plus you. So that's like, 7 to 11 of my closest random friends that I might not have known. And I'm sure people, bring friends on the trip, right? And go with someone. But But okay, so I get to the airport and I'm sure you have some kind of meetup location. What do I
VIP,
do?
baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yes.
Like I'm like not only am I in a strange land, but I'm with strange people potentially.
Okay. Well, I just have to say, I love it so much to witness that uncomfortable experience that everyone's having right away. And I prepare and I tell people, hey, the first day where we all meet, it's going to feel a little weird. It's actually going to feel very uncomfortable. And you're probably going to be like, why did I do this? Why am I here? I could be at home watching Netflix, curled up with my dog. And that is why you should do it, because it is so important to do things that make you uncomfortable that are good for you. And spending time in a beautiful location like Costa Rica or India with women who support you and inspire you and want to know you and want to love you and just be with you and have no expectations, but they want to actually know you, not this crazy version of you that happens only after wine. So is it awkward? Sometimes. Yeah, for sure. And I'm just like, wow, this is so cool that all these people are here. And then you kind of see them pushing through it. And towards the end of the trip, everyone's like, this is the best thing ever. Like, where can we go again? You know, but it is so interesting to watch the change. And I plan the trips to accommodate and to plan for that. So I design them knowing that everyone's going to be like meh, 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 in the first couple days, and then implementing activities, whether it's hiking or zip lining or going to a coffee farm and experiencing Costa Rica coffee, like so good, and just giving opportunities outside of meals and drinking. Like that's where I want people to be connecting more, and it's so fun. It's so fun.
I think I'll just underpin that everyone's in the same experience, right? And like presumably you're not getting drunk on the airplane or something, but like you're getting off the plane and everyone's there. And I can imagine some folks listening to this are probably like unable to comprehend because a lot of people, if dare I say most people I know, any sort of social situation around people you don't know, there's alcohol. If you're at a happy hour mixer or you're at some sort of
baby shower,
professional networking event, there's almost always alcohol.
100%.
It's such a minor thing to remove, yet I think it has this. The opposite of a stigma. It's almost like for a lot of people, it's a requirement. And I think that's the inflection point for me in all of this, is thinking through, are you avoiding, social interaction with folks because there isn't alcohol, or is there another reason? And this isn't a therapy podcast, but I think that level of thinking and that line of thinking is really important, because it definitely relates back to creativity and really understanding what are you intending to do, right? Anyone can make art, anyone can do stuff. And one thing I really try to underpin with folks is that if you're not intentionally doing it, it's not creative. It might be great, it might be cool, it might look great, and that's fine. But if you're not intentionally trying to do something or intentionally trying to change it, it's not creative. It's just something you did.
Yeah.
And I like how you have like a diversity of activities as well. Right?
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of these pre-planned trips or whatever folks call them tend to center around like an activity. You kind of do a big thing in a day, or you do a little day trip somewhere and then you're done. But I've seen some of your itineraries. You have all sorts of stuff planned. You have unplanned time, which I also think is really critical for this kind of stuff. Do you have any tips for somebody who is really interested in travel? So I travel alone all the time. I travel with people. I just don't care. Yeah. It's interesting though, when I talk to women, they tend to not want to travel alone or tend to be afraid of it. I think there's a lot of reasons around that. I think hopefully they're obvious for most people. And traveling alone, for folks who don't know, I'm a really big dude. I'm really intimidating, I guess. But do you have any tips for people? And I guess your first trip doesn't have to be to like sub-Saharan Africa, right? Like you can go out of town or even do a day trip in town, travel across town, stay in a hotel, right? Like there's all sorts of things you can do. So do you have any like generic tips for folks?
Totally. I will say this is an unpopular opinion.
Great.
I believe that solo travel is overrated when it comes to women. I spent a decade traveling alone, and I'm telling myself that I went on my last solo trip this January in Tulum. I think that we could talk about this for like 4 hours. Like this I love. I think that if you are desiring to travel, there is something within you that is searching or curious. And I think that's beautiful. And I think travel is such an incredible tool for personal and spiritual growth. While I don't recommend it to anyone or everyone, I'm just saying that you can accomplish the same things that you are seeking through solo travel without traveling solo.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because I think making some assumptions for folks, but for me, travel is always about the destination, like enjoy the journey. You know, that's kind of cliche, and I try to. Sometimes it's difficult.
It's real.
But especially when I travel myself, I think almost exclusively meeting up with people or attending some sort of an event with, like there's a reason that I'm like traveling for. And seeing traveling with people, I guess I don't really care, but I think I do a mix of both.
Yeah.
And I think, so I have a little bit of a different perspective. But I do, I've read travel blogs and YouTube and all this other bullshit where people try to glamorize, living out of your car. Well, anyone who's lived out of their car knows that it sucks. Right?
Yeah.
Constantly being on the move sucks. Not having any sort of permanence sucks. And yeah, it's really cool to be able to just theoretically pick up and go places. Like RVing and this kind of stuff has been around for a long time, and people have been nomadic, but even nomadic peoples have place, and they tend to migrate from one place to another. There are some, someone on the internet's going to call me out. There are some nomadic peoples who just are nomads, right? Okay, fine. But a vast majority of people have some sort of permanence in place or intentionality of why they're going where they're going or what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think especially with Instagram, especially, is a fucking toxic place. But like people have glorified this idea of it's somehow independent for you to do it. And again, if you want to go travel by yourself, go for it.
Totally.
But if you're traveling somewhere to sit on a beach and take a picture, like I think you have a lot of introspection to really do, because is the trip for you or is the trip for your social media metrics? And I think it's so easy to say, well, I got 50,000 likes when I was on the beach.
Oh, that's so many.
I'm so out of touch with social media. I
mean, for me, I'm like, 2, nice. One's my mom. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's truth to that. And from my experience and the conversations that I've had, this is cliche, Andrew. I truly believe that as women, we're better together. And so when I talk to women who are like, oh, I want to go on a solo trip to South America or, Thailand, I'm like, cool, babe, do it. Like, whatever, do it. I'll help you. All good. But I'm also like, why don't you take yourself out to dinner tonight, sit at a bar, order a really nice meal, dress up, and then let's talk tomorrow. Do that, feel what that experience is like, and then let's talk about what you felt during that. And I just think that there is a lot of, I'm not going to say pressure, but glamorization on solo travel. Like, I'm so brave. And trust me, I was there. I was definitely there. I was like, yeah, I'm going to Central America by myself. And I wanted to explore. But the reality was that I was exploring myself, and it got lonely. I'm just telling the truth. And it's hard for me to say that. I'm not going to lie. It feels very vulnerable to say that. And I'm sure there's people who travel solo who are like, my company is the best and I am never lonely. Like, I'm always like, no, dude, this would be way more fun with my girlfriends. And when women travel together, me and a friend just went to Sonoma, like women get served. Like everyone was like, can we help you? We got the red convertible Mustang. Like everyone was just trying to make us fun. And I'm sure this happens to dudes too. I don't know. But it's just such a unique experience, and it is uncomfortable, I think, for women to travel in groups. They have stories about like groups of women, or what
Mm-hmm.
if they're like this and she's like that, or what if there's drama? And I'm like, there's not, because we're all
Yeah.
doing our work, right? And obviously I'm having conversations with the people who join the trips. You know, there's an application
Mm-hmm.
process. Like, are you taking care of yourself? What kind of qualities do you bring to group settings? Are we a good fit?
Yeah.
And that goes both ways. It's just so unique when you can start to see travel as an opportunity to get to know yourself better, and also surround yourself with really cool people who are on similar journeys as you.
And I think too, like traveling with friend groups or like extended friends, like, hey, can my friend come, is very different than, what it is that you do and what you were describing. In that, yeah, there might be some friends on your trips, but it's also, there's like a randomness coefficient built into that as well. And a lot of the social dynamics of groups that go poorly are either because people just straight up can't communicate, or you have these weird, we'll call them weird because they manifest weirdly, but you have all of these weird social connections, and then there's competitiveness or hierarchical
Yes.
kind of human shit that just, and again, most people don't know how to deal with this anyway, but you tend to not get that with groups of people that you don't know or have loose connection to.
Yeah.
But I think you hit on something really important with the solo travel thing. Like I've solo traveled a bunch, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I've also group traveled, but like being stranded at an airport by yourself really sucks, right? Or even like going, I was just in the UK and I was in London, and I have friends in London. They were out of town, so it was just fine.
Yeah.
But I went to a really, really cool art exhibit, and I was just like, well, damn, I wish, I could have shared this experience with people,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so human. You made the comment that, women in groups. I think that's a misnomer. It's people in groups. And I
Thank you.
combat this ideology of like the solo genius of like, the inventor,
Mm-hmm.
it's always a group of people who have done amazing things. And I think maybe stereotypically men tend to do better by themselves for periods of time, but you still need people, and you're never going to do anything great, and you're never going to be successful without other people. I think that our society has all this marketing and shit built into it to try to make you think that you're better by yourself, or that sometimes you have to do things by yourself, or you should do things by yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
we've become such an incredibly insulated society under the guise of individualism that it's just fascinating to me that we're here where we're at. And I think the general nature of our society is the proof that people are more miserable now than ever. They're more angry. We're more divided. Well, why is that? Well, because we're so focused on individuality, or we're so micro focused on me. But that bleeds away when you do things with other people, especially when you do hard shit. Like I'm sure you've had all sorts of problems on trips that come up, and you have to like figure out how to,
Yeah.
right? And that's part of the experience.
Yes.
Right? And without those challenges, or overcoming those challenges, or you lose out on an aspect of life, I guess. Another question I had, this isn't a support group, is it?
No.
Okay. Because we've kind of had two conversations. We could kind of talk about what you do, and they've very much connected, but at the same time, we're talking through sobriety. Like I think, having worked in mental and behavioral health,
Yeah.
if you think you have a problem, get professional help. You're not going to get better or get the support you need from a group of people who aren't trained. I think I can't
Right.
underpin that enough. Like, yes, having friends who are going through the same thing, incredibly valuable. If you're sober, wanting to be sober, and being around people that are sober is also very valuable. But if you are dependent on substances, you're probably not going to kick that dependency without professional help. And I've seen so many people get trapped in these instances because they hear what they don't want to hear. or they receive information that's uncomfortable, and then they reject it, and then they find people who enable them. So I think just to be clear for folks, like, you're not running a support group internationally.
Definitely not. If that's what you're looking for, I can point you in a direction for sure. There are several out there that are great. I don't personally have experience with them, but I know them and they're incredible. But that was how this started, because I was just looking for travel with a group of women who were alcohol free. And I could not find anything for literal years. I looked and I'm like, how is there nothing? And so I'm just like, okay, whatever, we're doing it.
I can go probably right now and book one of 100 wine tasting tours with random people, right? But if I want to find something where I go to Napa or Sonoma, wine country, I used to live there. Lots of great shit to do.
I love Sonoma.
In Napa and Sonoma.
Yeah. I just wrote about it in Sonoma. Yeah. So many art galleries and beautiful parks and olive oil tastings. And, some wineries are starting to showcase, not in Sonoma, but there's a few that had mocktails, and there's a lot of non-alcoholic wine being introduced, which is great option. So people, if they are attending social gatherings, no, it's like I actually don't know. I'll have to find some.
It's probably just fermented in
kombucha.
You can do that.
Yeah. So those are great options for people who just want to have something in their hand, when they're out and about, and not be like the person with like a big plastic cup of water, which is what bars give you. And I'm like, can you just put it in a glass? Like, put
a big old sign on me.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I'm like this, a big L. They're like, she wants another water. You DD tonight. I'm like, okay. So definitely not a support group. The idea is that women have had the experience. We're supportive and we can talk about this experience, but we're not having meetings. We're not going deep. We're, there are no, there might be trained professionals joining, but that is not the intention of the trip. It's to have fun, dude.
It's to have fun.
Yeah. Yes. Have so much freaking fun without alcohol.
We'll put the links to all your stuff in the show notes if folks are interested. Are you ever going to do a trip for not just women?
Yes, I think so.
I may or may not be asking.
Yes, I have been asked that a couple times, and yes, that is in the future, because I think that would be really fun. You'll be the first to know, Andrew.
Yeah, you should do it in Portland.
Oh, okay. We'll come to you.
We should chat offline about that. Yeah. There are some really, really cool places around here that a lot of folks don't know that, we have the mountains an hour away and the water an hour away.
I would love that. I would love
that.
You don't
have to go. That's one of the reasons I love this place, is you don't have to go very far to do all sorts of stuff. But joking aside, it's in development, and folks, can find you and do that. One thing I like to ask people, is there anything else you wanted to mention? And this is a two-parter. And then the second part is there anything that you're reading or consuming that you think other people would be interested in?
The other thing I wanted to mention is I thought when I was drinking alcohol that I felt good, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. This whole time I've just been trying to feel good every day. Like, bare minimum, dude, I just want to feel 100% most days. And now that I feel like that, it's amazing. I love it so much. Something that I'm reading, I'm reading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read that yet?
No. And I don't know that I've heard of it.
It's kind of deep. It's intense, but it's just about how when you have a purpose, nothing is hard. Like when you are working towards what you want, when you know where you're going, there's challenges, but you just keep going. I love that book. I'm looking around. Can't Hurt Me is a great book by David Goggins. Have you read that?
No.
Oh gosh, that's all about mental mastery and mindset and just getting super clear on your own potential. That helped me a lot.
That's awesome. I'll put a link to those in the show notes too, so folks are interested in checking out. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat, and also being really open with the conversation and willing to just go with it. I know this is a little bit of a different, I think, podcasts than what I've done historically, and I'm totally cool with that. I think, but it's just one of these topics that I think, one, is important, and two, the perseverance and in your introspection, I think, is really interesting and good for folks to talk about, because if you're not really in tune with yourself, you're never going to do anything great either. And I'm really excited to see how your touring company goes.
Thank you.
And really looking forward to being able to go on a trip.
Yes. And this was so fun. This was so fun. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You can find us at 38.com. It's like the word create, but with a 3 instead of the C. As always, we encourage you to listen, watch, do. We'll see you next time. You can support this podcast at patreon.com/38 or at ko-fi.com/38. Thanks for listening.